This is the upgraded Nissan Patrol. It looks exactly the same as the previous version, doesn't it? Well, at least from the outside. Well, that's because all of the action is inside. It has a bigger multimedia touchscreen, more charge ports, and it now has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. But does it warrant an extra $3,000 price increase over a standard Nissan Patrol? Well, that's what we're here to find out, so stick around. Our test vehicle is the Nissan Patrol TIL spec, and as such, it has a price tag of just over $100,000. That's excluding on-road costs. Now be aware the upgrade goes across the entire Patrol range, but expect to pay about $3,000 for each of them. That's for the upgraded version over the standard version. Standard features on board the upgraded Patrol include this new 10.1-inch multimedia touchscreen, which we'll talk about soon. Beyond that, it's a whole bunch of TIL goodness, and that includes tri-zone climate control and a powered tailgate and a whole stack of other stuff. Exterior paint choices include the no extra cost gun metallic, which is on our test vehicle, as well as a range of premium paint jobs. But remember, as always, make sure you read my full written review at carsguide.com.au. All of the upgrades in this Patrol are inside. There are no changes to its appearance, no changes to power and torque, and that's fine because it's a good looking vehicle. It's big, it's imposing, and above the TI spec, the TIL does get a few bits and pieces like the side steps and the roof rails that differentiate it from its lower spec stablemate. There is a lot to like about the Patrol's cabin, but there are a few things that may niggle you. Let's start with the positives. It is really roomy. There's plenty of space here. Comfortable seating all the way from front to the back. Even that third row is pretty comfortable. But the things that niggle may be this sort of wood grain look that Nissan persists with, and also the chrome everywhere. That might be your cup of tea, but I don't really like it. All of the elements in the cabin, including the new multimedia system, do tend to tie together really well. I have noticed, however, that when I do press the screen, it does move a little bit. There's a little bit of play in the screen. That might be of some concern down the track. But overall, the cabin is a neat and tidy space, very comfortable, and there's plenty of room. In terms of functionality, not a lot has changed in this cabin from a standard version. But of course, the big news is the new touchscreen multimedia system. Now that screen is a lot bigger, a lot clearer, and you of course get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which was never offered previously. I am a little bit guilty of looking up here where the old 8-inch screen used to be, which now houses a cubby hole there. But in terms of usage, easy to use, nice and bright and clear. And a bonus for four-wheel drivers, this system has HEMA maps on board, so you're ready to go. For a 7-seater with all seats in use, there's actually quite a bit of usable space at the back when everyone's in there, but I've got to fold that third row down just to open up a bit more room for us to get the max tracks and all that sort of gear in. As well as that, you get some tie-down points, and you also get a 12-volt socket in the back. All in all, it's a pretty usable space. The Nissan Patrol has a 5.6 litre V8 petrol engine, and that produces 298 kilowatts and 560 newton meters, and that's matched to a 7-speed automatic transmission. This is a solid combination. It's not particularly dynamic, but it is lively enough, and there is plenty of low-end torque when it comes to four-wheel driving. Speaking of four-wheel driving, the Nissan Patrol has a full-time four-wheel drive system with high and low range. The Patrol is a tried and tested four-wheel drive. It makes a great touring platform, and it also makes a great tow vehicle. There's no disputing those things. But it is a big vehicle, and it does take some getting used to if you haven't been in one before. I have, so it's quite comfortable and familiar to me. There's plenty of glass everywhere, so you've got good visibility from all directions from the vehicle. There is plenty to like about the Patrol on-road. It's quite refined and comfortable, and it really is a nice, relaxed driving experience. Four-wheel driving, it's also very, very capable. Steering has a nice feel and a weight to it when you're doing low-range four-wheel driving. And low-speed four-wheel driving, low-range four-wheel driving is when you really need precision. You really need to dial into your driving lines. The off-road traction control system is pretty well dialed in. There's decent enough wheel travel. The Patrol doesn't have great approach angles or departure angles. The ramp over angle's not even listed, but you can drive to suit those things. And those angles and the ground clearance for the Patrol, they're all pretty standard for a vehicle of this size with this long of a wheelbase. There are drive modes in the Patrol specifically for off-road conditions, and they include snow, sand and rock, and they tweak the traction control system, the engine response, that sort of thing, just to get it right for the surface you're on. And beyond the very effective off-road traction control system and the great low and mid-range torque, you also have a rear diff lock, so if things get pretty difficult, you can always engage that. What does have to be mentioned though when you're talking about this current generation Patrol is the fact that it has essentially a sway bar disconnect system, hydraulic body motion control. It works like a sway bar. It tightens up when you're on road when you need that control, and it loosens up on off-road terrain, so it gives you that little bit extra flexibility in terms of wheel travel and how the vehicle carries itself when things get a little bit lumpy and bumpy. There are plenty of positive elements in the Patrol's makeup, but there are some trade-offs, and it's the usual suspects. Tyres. You need a decent set of all-terrain tyres. Swap those in to replace the Bridgestone Jeweler tyres that are on the Patrol as standard. They aren't terrible tyres by all means, but they are just not up to scratch when it comes to more difficult four-wheel driving. If you're going to use your Patrol as a general daily driver and you're only going to use it sporadically as a touring vehicle, well then perhaps the standard tyres are fine. But if you're going to do any more, if you're going to ask any more of your Patrol in off-road driving conditions, then it's a good idea to swap in a set of all-terrain tyres, a decent set. And another thing you have to remember when driving the four-wheel drive in four-wheel drive conditions is, again, it is a big vehicle, so you have to drive with some consideration and some compensation to its sheer physical dimensions. And another positive in the Patrol's factor is, of course, its big V8 engine. There's nothing like that growl as a backing track, and you've always got that note there just to put a bit of pep in your step. It's unreal. It really is a beast of a thing, and it is fun to drive. You might pay the price with fuel bills if every now and again you're tapping that accelerator with a bit of gusto, but geez, it's worth it. Official fuel consumption is listed as 14.4 litres per 100 kilometres, and that's on a combined cycle. On this test, I recorded a fuel consumption figure of 20.9 litres per 100 kilometres, but it's worth remembering that I have done mostly high and low range four-wheel driving with a little bit of highway driving mixed in. The Patrol has a 140 litre fuel tank, so going by that on-test fuel figure, you could reasonably expect a driving range of about 670 kilometres from a full tank. The Nissan Patrol does not have an ANCAP safety rating because it has not been tested. Driver assist tech includes AEB adaptive cruise control, lane departure warning and a whole lot more. But for even more details, make sure you read my full written review at carsguide.com.au. The Nissan Patrol range is covered by a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, and you can also opt in for 5 years of roadside assistance. Servicing intervals are set at every 12 months or 10,000 kilometres, and they average out to about $600 a year, but make sure you check with your dealership for up-to-date servicing costs. The Nissan Patrol is a decent all-rounder. It's refined, it's comfortable, and it's a very capable four-wheel drive wagon, and this may well represent your last chance to get into a V8 Patrol. But are the new upgrades worth it? Well, yes they are, especially if you rely on tech, as all of us do. But for my money, especially if you are spending this much money, I would opt for the Warrior. You just get all of that aftermarket equipment, all of that engineering built into it, and it's all covered by warranty. But what do you reckon? Have your say in the comments section below. And as always, make sure you read my full written review at carsguide.com.au for even more details.